Have you ever noticed how some men can walk into a room and suddenly eyes follow them, hearts skip, and yet others, even if they look better on paper, fade into the background? It's not luck, it's not genetics, it's the invisible code of desire, the one women feel before they can even articulate it. And the truth, most men never learn it. They try to impress, they overthink, they give too much too soon. And here's the kicker. The moment a man tries to force attraction, desire dies. Instantly. Desire isn't something you can command. It isn't a trick, a line, or a routine. Women sense it as a subtle vibration in the air, a mixture of confidence, mystery, and emotional presence that can't be faked. Right now, I want you to imagine her noticing you, not because you told her you were interesting, but because you quietly became someone worth noticing. That's where most men fail. They try to be loud, to show value, to perform. But the women who matter, the ones who feel real connection and longing, they don't respond to performance. They respond to presence. Presence is not being seen. Presence is being felt. It's that rare energy that says, without a single word, I am grounded, I am aware, I exist fully, and I notice the world around me, including you. And when you cultivate presence, even in someone who claims they aren't interested, the game changes. Suddenly, curiosity sparks. You see, women are drawn to the man who doesn't chase approval, who doesn't need a reaction, who understands the unspoken dance of attention and retreat. Desire, in its rawest form, thrives on this tension. Now I need you to understand something crucial. Resistance isn't rejection. When a woman resists, it often means there's a hidden gate, a psychological gate to desire that hasn't been opened yet. She may not be aware of her own interest, but your subtle power can awaken it. Here's the principle most men completely misunderstand. Attraction can exist without consent being explicit. A woman may say no, may appear uninterested, and yet deep down her mind is unconsciously measuring your energy, your boundaries, your confidence. Every subtle gesture you make, every moment you stay grounded while she tests you, every second you maintain calm and authenticity, you are slowly influencing her subconscious. Think about this. Have you ever seen someone pull back just to watch the other person lean in? That's the psychology at play. A woman unconsciously checks, is he desperate? Is he anchored? Does he have value that doesn't rely on my validation? Desire grows when she senses your stability, your self-possession, and your unwillingness to collapse under uncertainty. This isn't manipulation. This is understanding human nature, female psychology, and the invisible forces that govern attraction. Here's an insider truth few men know. The most magnetic energy isn't loud, isn't flashy, and isn't overtly sexual. It's subtle. It's the quiet confidence in your gaze, the controlled space you occupy, the awareness of your emotions without needing to broadcast them. And when a woman senses this, her mind begins to create stories about you, stories of intrigue, curiosity, and connection. She starts to wonder, who is this man who feels so steady, so untouchable by my initial resistance? Who makes me feel both challenged and safe at the same time? This is where desire is born, not in seduction lines or expensive dinners, but in the subtle tension between a woman's curiosity and a man's unwavering presence. And the secret to sparking that desire in someone who isn't interested? You first become the man whose energy commands notice, who embodies calm power, who lives beyond neediness, and who understands that attraction isn't a transaction, it's a gravitational pull. By the time most men even think about strategy, the foundation of desire has already been laid or missed entirely. And right now, if you're paying attention, I'm about to show you how to build that foundation with precision, confidence, and psychological insight that women rarely articulate but always respond to. Let's be honest, most men make the fatal mistake of assuming desire is earned through effort, gifts, or persuasion. They flood her with attention, over-explain themselves, or beg for approval, thinking they can convince a woman to feel attraction. And yet the women who are truly drawn to a man, they don't respond to effort. They respond to presence, subtle authority, and the energy that hints at depth she can't quite put into words. The first invisible trigger of desire is emotional contrast. Women are wired to notice the difference between what she expects and what she experiences. When a man remains calm while everyone else chases, when he appears unpredictable yet grounded, when he balances warmth with boundaries, he creates a psychological tension she can't ignore. This is why the man who is too available rarely sparks longing, and the one who is mysteriously selective feels magnetic. Desire thrives in gaps, the space where curiosity meets restraint. Then comes confidence under uncertainty. A woman will test a man subtly, through words, actions, even silence. And here's the truth most men never grasp. It's not about passing the test, it's about how you react to it. Do you crumble, cling, or argue? Or do you remain calm, steady, and composed, aware of your own value without needing her validation? This is where her mind begins to unconsciously attach intrigue and respect to you. Every slight challenge she throws, every hint of resistance, is an opportunity for you to demonstrate that you are anchored in your own power. Another psychological lever few men recognize is the art of subtle unavailability. This doesn't mean ignoring her completely or playing childish games. It means living a life that doesn't orbit around her approval, maintaining your ambitions, friendships, and purpose. When you exude fulfillment from your own existence, desire intensifies. Women notice what is missing, the absence of desperation, and the mind begins to fill that gap with fascination, curiosity, and yes, longing. Physical cues matter too, but not in the way most men think. It's not about exaggerated flirting or flashy gestures. It's micro-expressions, a slow, deliberate glance, a slight lean forward at just the right moment, an unspoken confidence in your body language that silently says, "I am comfortable in my skin, and I notice you." These tiny signals trigger unconscious attraction pathways in her brain. They suggest strength, attentiveness, and emotional intelligence simultaneously, all things that women feel before they rationally acknowledge them. Equally important is emotional intrigue. Women crave emotional depth in a man who is not emotionally needy. Share glimpses of your world, your thoughts, your experiences, your values, but never lay everything bare. Keep some layers private. Mystery isn't deceit, it's a magnet that allows her imagination to engage. When she begins to invest her curiosity into uncovering who you are, desire grows organically. Her mind starts to weave stories about you, imagining connection, possibilities, and excitement she never anticipated. And here's the part most men underestimate. The timing of withdrawal and engagement is critical. Pulling back slightly after moments of attention, subtly shifting focus away, or creating space even for a few hours, sparks an unconscious need for reconnection. But this isn't manipulation, it's natural psychology. Desire strengthens in absence, tension, and the silent recognition that a man exists beyond immediate approval. By combining emotional contrast, steady confidence, subtle unavailability, micro-expressions, and calculated intrigue, you awaken pathways of desire, even in a woman who initially insists she isn't interested. She may resist consciously, but her subconscious starts pulling her attention toward you. She begins to replay moments in her mind, noticing your energy, your presence, your calm authority. Most men will never understand this. They will continue chasing, hoping, and failing. But the man who truly masters these principles doesn't chase at all. He commands attention without demanding it, and that, above all else, is the spark of desire. Now we step into the territory most men never even realize exists. The unspoken codes that transform a flicker of curiosity into full-blown fascination. You see, desire doesn't grow linearly. It isn't built through attention or compliments alone. Desire escalates in waves, subtle psychological shifts that most men are blind to because they focus on what they say rather than the energy they emit. The first truth is this: women respond to emotional contrast paired with controlled intensity. You've already learned the power of calm stability. But to ignite obsession, you must learn when to introduce controlled unpredictability. Small deliberate deviations from your baseline, whether it's a change in tone, a hint of humor that challenges her perspective, or a fleeting moment of vulnerability, signal that there's depth she cannot fully map. And her mind becomes fascinated. She starts paying attention to nuances she previously ignored, searching for patterns, trying to understand the man who doesn't fit neatly into her expectations. Next, understand the power of psychological mirroring without overexposure. Subtle mirroring, the echo of her gestures, energy, or rhythm, creates a feeling of connection, but the key is restraint. Mirror too much, and it becomes obvious, cheap, and desperate. Mirror just enough to spark subconscious comfort, and she starts feeling seen, understood, and even drawn to you emotionally before she can rationalize it. This is the stage where fascination quietly blooms. She isn't thinking about your words, she's feeling your presence, the rhythm of your energy, and the unspoken acknowledgement that you exist on a level beyond casual interaction. The next lever is challenge and play, not confrontation, not manipulation, but light, intelligent challenges that stimulate her mind and emotion. A woman who initially resists often subconsciously tests whether you are worthy of attention, responding with humor, cleverness, or calm assertiveness, without taking the bait of her subtle tests, activates deep admiration. Admiration is fertile soil for desire. She begins to associate you with tension and reward, uncertainty and safety, intrigue and stability, all at the same time. This is how initial resistance slowly morphs into fascination. Physical presence is equally critical, but it must reinforce your psychological strategy. Micro movements, how you orient your body toward her, the deliberate pacing of your steps, even the way you pause and occupy silence, convey confidence without words. Women subconsciously evaluate these cues far more than your verbal content. Each small signal you give, controlled gestures, unflinching eye contact, measured physical space, communicates dominance, awareness, and groundedness. She doesn't rationally notice it, but her brain tracks these cues, storing them in a subconscious ledger of desirability. Then comes emotional scarcity, not emotional withdrawal in a manipulative way, but selective engagement. Reveal just enough of your world, your thoughts, and your feelings to intrigue her. Keep some aspects private. Mystery stimulates the imagination. Fascination grows when she senses there are layers she cannot immediately access. Curiosity becomes obsession. Her mind starts connecting dots, filling gaps, and replaying every interaction to decode your inner world. Finally, understand the power of silent validation. Most men seek overt approval, chasing reactions, compliments, or signs of interest. But a man who remains anchored, independent, and self-contained radiates a quiet authority that cannot be ignored. Women pick up on this instinctively. They feel the difference between need and self-possession. Desire doesn't rise from flattery. It rises from subtle, unwavering value. By combining emotional contrast, subtle mirroring, playful challenge, micro-expression mastery, emotional scarcity, and silent validation, you create a gravitational field of fascination. Even if she insists she isn't interested, her mind begins to bend toward you. Her curiosity deepens, her attention sharpens, and what once seemed impossible now feels inevitable. This is where men either fail or succeed. Most will never understand these principles and continue chasing, unknowingly repelling the very desire they seek. But the man who internalizes this, who embodies these truths, becomes magnetic, not by trying, not by pleading, not by forcing, but by existing as a paradox of calm authority, subtle intrigue, and irresistible depth. Now let's enter the stage where subtle fascination begins to tip into undeniable attraction, the hidden psychological triggers that make even a resistant woman feel drawn to you, often without realizing it herself. Most men never reach this stage because they fail to understand the mechanics of desire. It's never about words alone, it's about the interplay of tension, curiosity, and emotional engagement. The first trigger is perceived scarcity, but not in the obvious way. This isn't about disappearing entirely or playing childish games. It's about signaling that your attention is valuable, that your energy cannot be given to just anyone, and that you live a life outside her orbit. Women unconsciously assess whether a man exists independently of them. When she senses a man's energy is self-contained, scarce in its availability, her mind automatically assigns value to him. Scarcity, when paired with warmth and presence during your interactions, ignites desire faster than any compliment ever could. Next is the subtle art of tension release. Desire thrives on tension, both emotional and physiological. You've already learnt to be calm, anchored, and mysteriously unpredictable. Now you must strategically release tension in ways that feel natural and effortless. A well-timed smile, a touch that respects boundaries, or a brief shared laugh after a moment of intensity can unlock dopamine pathways in her brain. She begins to associate your presence with both anticipation and relief, and that biochemical response fuels fascination on an unconscious level. Then there's the power of psychological framing. Women interpret men not just through actions, but through the stories they unconsciously tell themselves about him. Every glance, every tone, every pause contributes to a narrative in her mind. If you can frame yourself as someone who is confident, unshakable, and intriguing, she will fill in the details herself. She may initially resist, saying she's not interested, but internally, her brain is rewriting her story. She begins to imagine possibilities she would never have considered if your energy were ordinary or needy. Equally important is anchoring emotional highs. When she experiences a moment of connection with you, shared laughter, a deep gaze, a clever observation, allow it to linger just enough to leave an imprint. Do not rush to fill silence or chase a reaction. Let her brain store these emotional peaks. Desire grows when emotional highs are coupled with your consistent presence and stability. She begins to associate you with those peaks, even if she's not consciously aware of why she wants more. Physicality now becomes a subtle amplifier, not a crutch. Micro-touches, light, respectful, and unhurried, signal confidence and presence. Your posture, your proximity, and even the way you orient your body communicate messages far more potent than words. She doesn't consciously register these cues at first, but her mind is wiring pathways that link you to trust, safety, and attraction. Desire is now beginning to emerge, quietly, powerfully, and almost invisibly. Finally, you must master the paradox of challenge and comfort. A resistant woman will feel drawn to a man who challenges her mind, piques her curiosity, and stands firm under subtle tests, yet simultaneously offers comfort, reliability, and emotional grounding. This paradox creates a gravitational pull. She doesn't just want your attention, she craves it, and she doesn't even fully understand why. Her rational mind may insist she's not interested, but her subconscious, driven by these triggers, is rapidly forming attachment and intrigue. By now, if you've maintained presence, emotional control, subtle tension, scarcity, psychological framing, and anchoring highs, resistance begins to soften. What seemed impossible, sparking desire in someone who claimed indifference, is no longer a mystery. Her thoughts, her curiosity, and her emotional investment are being drawn toward you, often faster than you realize. This is where most men falter. They see the sparks but fail to deepen them. But the man who understands these triggers, who applies them without desperation, and who remains anchored in his own value, transforms subtle interest into fascination, and fascination into desire that feels almost inevitable. Now we arrive at the point where attraction transforms into lasting desire, the stage where subtle curiosity, fascination, and initial resistance coalesce into an emotional pull that feels almost magnetic. Most men never reach this point because they mistake desire for attention. But desire isn't given, it's earned through presence, consistency, and mastery of unspoken psychological dynamics. The key is knowing how to maintain tension while fostering connection, creating a paradox that women instinctively crave. First, understand the rhythm of push and pull. Desire grows in the spaces between engagement. You cannot rush fascination, but you can cultivate it by carefully balancing attention with strategic absence. Give enough to spark interest, then retreat slightly, not to manipulate, but to allow her mind to integrate the experience. When she thinks about you in those gaps, her subconscious begins to weave stories and possibilities, linking you to curiosity, excitement, and emotional stimulation. This is the invisible engine of desire. Next, anchor her emotions to your energy. Every interaction is an opportunity to leave an imprint, a subtle laugh, a shared insight, a meaningful glance. These moments are seeds. The stronger and more controlled your energy, the deeper the roots. Desire isn't built through overt pursuit. It's cultivated through consistent, meaningful emotional triggers that associate you with stability, intrigue, and subtle intensity. When she recalls these moments later, her brain experiences a chemical resonance that draws her back toward you without conscious effort. Then comes the magnetism of unpredictability within boundaries. A man who is entirely predictable is safe, yes, but rarely irresistible. A man who is chaotic, however, can feel dangerous and exhausting. The power lies in combining calm stability with calculated surprises, small, intelligent deviations that hint at depth and inner freedom. Perhaps it's an unexpected insight, a thought-provoking observation, or an action that defies expectation. Women unconsciously crave this balance, it triggers curiosity and keeps desire alive. Physical presence continues to play a subtle role. By now, micro-expressions, measured gestures, and purposeful proximity work in harmony with your psychological strategy. Your energy conveys calm confidence, emotional depth, and readiness without neediness. She senses that you are fully alive, fully grounded, and fully aware not just of yourself but of her presence in the moment. This dual awareness creates a connection that transcends words and logic, anchoring desire on a visceral level. Finally, understand the long-term architecture of attraction. Desire isn't a single spark, it's a momentum that builds over time. Each moment of intrigue, each emotional contrast, each subtle test you navigate successfully adds layers. Women are experts at reading energy. They notice when a man is self-possessed, socially adept, and emotionally intelligent. This layered impression becomes almost irresistible. By maintaining your authenticity, boundaries, and calm presence, you convert fleeting curiosity into lasting fascination and eventually longing. Here's the truth few men ever grasp. A woman's resistance is not a wall, it's a gateway. The right energy, the right emotional rhythm, and the right psychological triggers will open that gateway naturally. Your goal is not to coerce, convince, or perform. It is to exist in a way that makes desire inevitable, while remaining anchored in your own life values and confidence. Now here's a challenge for you. Think about the moments you've interacted with a woman who seemed uninterested. Reflect on your energy, your presence, and your subtle influence. Then imagine the difference if you applied just two of these principles consistently: emotional contrast and anchored confidence. I want you to solve this personal equation and drop the answer in the comments. Interest plus presence plus subtle challenge equals sign. If this video resonated, like it, subscribe, and share it with a friend who needs to understand female psychology at this level. Remember, attraction isn't about luck. It's about mastery, presence, and understanding the invisible currents women feel before they ever speak.